Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, everyone. So it's already 9. I think we should start on time. Okay, so before we start, perhaps where is my slide? Okay. So everyone can see my slide?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. Very good. So first of all, thank you so much for attending this sharing session. There's more toward sharing of experience as well as information related to the assessment, in particular related to the assessment blueprinting. And assessment blueprinting is about the process of having our assessment blueprint. So that is in a simple word. So there are two things that I'm going to focus within the 3 hours, within the 3-hour session. So basically, I'm going to reflect, maybe we are going to reflect on OBE, outcome-based education, and how it's relate with an assessment blueprint, and how the assessment blueprinting help us to ensure that whatever blueprint that we produce at the end of the day will reflect the outcomes. And then we have some practical session on how to go about assessment blueprinting based on the 7 steps. So we have a group work afterward, and based on input that are already prepared for everyone. And then if you're looking at the outcome-based education, so it means that whatever we do, we start with a clear picture of what is important for students to be able to do at the end of courses, programs. So basically, based on these outcomes, depending on how we define our outcomes, usually we define as competency. But nowadays, I think there are certain school of thought define the OBE based on the responsibility of the graduates in the future. So it's depending on, depending on how the program developer define the outcome. So that's basically flexibility is there. But usually in terms of competency, and we organize, we create our curriculum, create our instructions, and the assessments around the competency to ensure that learning ultimately happen. So this is something that outcome-based education, and hopefully when the learnings happen, the students will grasp the essential competencies that are expected that they mastery at the end of the program. And if you're looking at the diagram that usually we are showing the outcome-based education, and students are basically in the center, at the focus of the curriculum. We are thinking about students, what they're able to do, and then the assessment will be aligned with the teaching learning as well as the program learning outcome and course learning outcome. So basically, all these main important curriculum components in the good constructive alignment. So basically, this is the whole thing we are talking today, but we are focusing on one specific element, which is assessment blueprinting. And we are looking at the outcome competency. I'm using medical as as the example because I'm from the medical, so it's easier for me to illustrate the competency in terms of in the context of my area. So basically, if you are looking at medical students, so when they come to our program, basically they are incompetent. Basically, they are competent, and later on, after maybe 5 years of training, so we expect them to be a novice competent medical practitioner. This is where we call them house officer or maybe junior doctors. But they are competent enough to do essential skills and having good knowledge to perform clinical procedure to ensure the patient care, to take care of the patient. So basically, there is a 5-year training, and 3 to 5 years after training, they will definitely become a medical officer and hopefully competent medical practitioner. Okay, and then 4 to 5 years, usually they will advance to further training to become specialist. And maybe 5 to 10 years after the advanced training, they will go to the consultant, usually subspecialty and so on and so forth. So this is basically the competency expected from students enter to the medical program, and then practice as a medical practitioner, and then advance the training and becoming sub-specialty and become consultant in certain area. And if you're looking at the OPE, basically is a PLO, the program learning outcome for the undergraduate. Here for the undergraduate, basically at the end of the program, 5 years training, so they will be able to be novice competent medical practitioner. And this is somewhere we call it the PEO, the program education objective, whereby 3 to 5 years upon graduations, how they are doing. So this is something PO, and sometimes people go beyond than 3 to 5 years PO until they go to advanced training. So, but it's depending on how you define PO, but usually the PO 3 to 5 years upon graduation, we need to follow up to ensure that whatever we design in our curriculum, prepare them toward the PEO. So, and this is very much related to the assessment blueprint afterward, because the assessment is the gatekeeper for us to ensure that the student achieve the PLO, and hopefully they also achieve the PO, in terms of the attainment. And then this is the common framework they're using now, the MQF 2.0 competency. And in terms of assessment, we are going to use this one, the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, and we will revisit all these terms during our practice. Do the blueprinting practice afterwards. So don't worry about that. So we are going to go about it slowly but surely. And if you are looking at the loops, when we talk about OBE curriculum, yeah, definitely there is something that we are using, we are doing actually, and this is where the assessment tools come into the picture. And assessment blueprinting or assessment blueprint is part of the assessment tool to ensure the validity and reliability of our assessment that we design. So basically all this, I'm not going to elaborate more, but just to show how the assessment blueprint will, will be very much relevant in OBE. Okay, now let's focus on the assessment blueprinting. Okay, what do we mean by assessment blueprinting? And just simplified things. Okay, I hope you still remember this OBE and how the assessment blueprint is here. So basically, the assessment blueprinting play most very important roles in ensuring that whatever we generate in terms of the assessment, it will congruent between the expected competencies and the items appear in the test. So basically, our test reflecting the competency that we want to assess our students. So because this is very important. Otherwise, we are not so sure whether the student have achieved or not achieved the learning outcomes. So basically, the assessment blueprint will help us to map what kind of questions that we need to develop and from which area of the syllabus that we need to test in an examination or maybe even in your continuous assignment. So this is the important part of the assessment blueprint, whereby it's hit this area. And definitely it will ensure that whatever we assess, it must be aligned with whatever we teach student and whatever we put in our course learning outcome and program learning outcome. So all these are very much interrelated. So at this moment, anything you like to clarify before we proceed further? Anyone like to clarify anything? So far, so good? Okay, so far so good. No question. Okay, I hope I make it clear. So now, if you have that clarity in your mind about how the assessment blueprint help in OBE as well is improving our assessment, then we can go ahead. Okay. Now, in terms of the assessment goal, whatever it is, we must remember three things about the assessment goals. One is optimize capabilities of our candidates through their learning attainment. That's why we need to design our assessment as robust, as as valid as possible, because that will reflect in terms of the student capability when they graduated from our program. And for professional or maybe even non-professional, I think why we are very stringent or maybe very robust in our assessment design, particularly in terms of how we come up with the assessment blueprint, is because we want to protect public from incompetent graduates. And just imagine medical doctors who are incompetent graduated from our program that will give a lot of um, maybe unwanted consequences to the patient care. So we don't want that. And as I show it in the competency curve just now, so basically whatever we provide them at the basic level, for example, undergraduate level, so basically to provide them a basis for them to advance the career later on, maybe 3 to 5 years upon graduation, or maybe even taking a longer time as to certain stage to progress in their career. So I think this is where the assessments play a lot of roles, and the goal of assessing our student must be clear in our mind. If the students are not competent enough, it's not safe enough, or maybe not having what are the attributes that we like them to have at the end of the program, we shouldn't pass them, or maybe we shouldn't allow them to graduate from our program, because the impact will be huge, particularly those related to life of people. And if you're looking at the principle of assessment, so basically there are 5 principles, but I'm going to focus on this one because assessment blueprinting is very much related to expert judgment. So those who are involved in assessment blueprinting, so usually they are the experts in the field. So the selection of people to involve in the process of blueprint, your assessment or our assessment, must be the expert. Otherwise, the whole assessment blueprint would not valid if non-experts are doing that. So remember that the expert judgment is vital in assessment blueprint. Now, I'm going to focus now on a little bit of theory and steps related to assessment blueprint before we start our practical session on how do we go about it. How do we go about it? PLO has to be aligned. Oh, okay, we have questions just now. Let me read. From PLO to be aligned with the MQF, which has 5 clusters. How does using a taxonomy or learning domain in assembly ensure achievement of MQF? Okay, so basically the learning taxonomy, affective, psychomotor, and cognitive basically is main elements that contribute to the MQF 2.0 learning outcome. So basically, for example, let's say we are talking about PO1 is about understanding and knowledge. So basically, it's more toward cognitive. It's a link to the cognitive. And then if you're looking at the cognitive skills, cognitive skills is very much related to PO2. So that is basically it's under cognitive, but it's higher order thinking, which is we start from the application, analysis, evaluation, and creating. So it will be a higher order thinking. So, but it's related to the cognitive. If you're looking at the PO3, the practical skill, so it's very much related to the psychomotor, and sometimes it's also related to to certain things that are related to affective, because when we are performing something, so we are dealing with our values as well when we are performing something. So that's how it's related between the MQF 2.0 with the main component related to the learning taxonomy under the 3 components just now. And then let's say it's communication skill and ethics values. It's very much related to that. And so on and so forth. Basically, MQF 2.0 are a map to all these 3 learning taxonomy. So that's something aligned to me, I think. Okay, thank you for the question. Good. And now, let's go to the assessment blueprinting, the process on how we can produce our assessment blueprint. So basically, we have 3 main phase. So the pre-blueprinting, during blueprinting, which is intra, and then post-blueprinting. And basically, we have 7 steps. So there is just a definition I already mentioned to you, but there are definition depending on how you put your definition. If you're looking at the subject matter, if you are looking at the subject matter, so it's a process to generate congruence between the subject matter delivered during our teaching learning and the items that appear in the test if you're looking at the content. But if you're looking at the competencies, so it's about same thing. It's a process to generate congruence between competencies expected to be acquired by the students and the item that appear in the test. But I think depending on which level of training, sometimes content based is more important. But to me, I think competency based is superior as compared to the content. So content will really follow the competency that we expected students to acquire after that. Wait, there are questions on cluster 3 leadership and cluster 4 entrepreneur. So I think that is something that, is a bit challenging, but can be done. Because if you have proper assessment rubric and then you have maybe through co-curriculum, co-curriculum also having a lot of roles in developing those skills that maybe in terms of the core academic subject related matter might not be able to do it, but the co-curriculum, will help in that sense. How can we measure simultaneously? I think that is depending on our rubric, but usually depending on the nature of and then the complexity of the competency that we want to assess. For example, let's say leadership. So basically, you can assess the cognitive because you need to have a knowledge a little bit about leadership, so we can assess those knowledge. And then in terms of psychomotor, I think about, for example, let's say how they manage change. So there is a skill already. There is a skill already managing the change that the student want to bring in the team. So that is already skill. But effective, how they communicate, in professionally and ethically with the students. So basically, if you look at leadership, depending on our assessment rubric, so we can assess simultaneously, but we need to define what we want to look at the student in terms of observable behaviors of the student, because leadership is about behaviors. So we need to put our indicators or descriptors in our assessment rubric in terms of what we can observe from the students. So there's a lot of method to assess and a lot of tools that can be done, but at the end of the day, how we define our rubric is very important. Very important. Okay, thank you for the questions. Even though it's a bit, a bit not related, but it's not the focus of our discussion. But I'm happy to, I'm happy to take any question like that. So don't worry, you can still ask. Okay, so this is assessment blueprinting, and for today, okay, there are 7 things that we are going to do. 7 steps for blueprinting. So this is basically based on this paper. And then the 7th step, basically, we are going to do it one by one. How do, question, let me answer. How do make a flexible and robust assessment blueprint? Oh, this is something that we are going to talk about, okay? So we are going to follow this one. And during the practical session, I will show you how you can use and how we can be very flexible in terms of our assessment when we have the assessment blueprint. So I'm going to share some of those experience based on what we did in medical school USM. Okay, so let's go a little bit more theoretical foundation related to the blueprinting, assessment blueprinting in terms of the 7 steps. I will go one by one, and I'm going to show you an example for that. And after I completed the elaboration of each step, we are going to have some group work that I will give you link, and then maybe in the group later you can discuss about the steps, and then let's see what will be the outcome of your group work later. Okay, so we have 7 steps. First, define the blueprinting purpose and scope. Second, we are going to tabulate curricular content. Example, identify impacts and frequency. I will tell you what is impact and frequency means. And then categorize curricular content based on relative weightage. I'm going to show you again. Afterward, decide on percentage of positions for each category. Yes, I'm going to share with you what we are doing in medical school. Decide on number of items. Yes, this is something that the flexibility will come into to the picture. And then assign question to lecturer for items preparation. This is another flexibility that we are going to see afterward. Okay, now let's start with the first step, the pre-blueprinting. Okay, we have three things under this phase. Okay, so define the blueprinting purpose and scope. I think these are a few questions that now that we can ask ourselves. Okay, which phase of study the blueprint is prepared for? Later on, I will show you how we answer this question. How many academic sessions the blueprint is prepared for? So basically, is it for in medical context? Is it for clinical years or is it the preclinical years? Or maybe is it for first year or is it for second year, third year, or fourth year? Which courses are involved? So I'm going to let you know as well. And for your information, in medical school, we have all courses have their own assessment blueprint from year 1 until year 5. All courses have that blueprint for each of the course. What the teaching assessment approach involved? Yes, definitely, there is something that we need to be clear. Otherwise, it's a bit difficult for us to be more flexible when we are, using the assessment blueprint. How many questions for each assessment tool? So this is the thing that's the distribution of questions that has been decided by the faculty members or maybe at the course level that has been approved by the school board and the universities. Okay, now let's go back to the competency on how we decide and how we want to understand our, all these five. Okay, before we can, before we can proceed with assessment blueprinting. So the first thing we need to really clear that what is when we said about our students, what our students is going through. So in terms of our syllabus. So basically, this is an example from the medical again. So competency. So as I mentioned, in this phase, first and second year, once they entered to the program, so basically they will learn about something that will make them to be able to apply their knowledge in practice. So basically, there is the first and second year. They will learn the basic sciences. They will learn about the basic clinical sciences and so on and so forth, so that they can use this knowledge into practice, particularly when they enter the clinical year. So we are preparing them with the content, with the skills, and with relevant, effective skills to ensure that they are able to perform in the clinical year. And the third and fourth year is basically this is where they will be rotated through various clinical posting so that they can gain experience as well as skills to be clinically more skillful. This is advanced beginner in terms of in terms of the competency of the students. And then the final year is basically they are doing something that house officer is doing, but with a controlled environment. And hopefully, once they graduated, they are able to become a novice competent practitioner. And hopefully, with whatever we prepare them, they will be able to chart the pathway to become a competent medical professional as medical officers after 3 to 5 years. So this is where, if you are looking at, it's a different, different landscape. So basically, in the first and second year, they are, they are taught to apply the knowledge, solve problem based on the clinical case, communicate well, and they have a basic clinical skill. So this is the assessment and so many things. So we need to be clear with all this before we start our blueprint. These are just examples that I'm showing you. And we know that this is a preclinical phase and this one is a clinical phase. So we know that what are the expected competency and what sort of assessment that we have in place to assess those competency that we expected them to at least have certain proficiency in terms of the skill. So this is basically an example from us in the diagram, so that with all these ideas, we are able to judge, the topics, maybe the subjects, or maybe the inputs in our curriculum as we package it as syllabus, so that we are clear in our mind when we talk about the impact and frequency later on. So there is a basic thing in terms of defining the scope as well as the phase of the students and what the purpose of the blueprint. So we need to be very clear with the whole structure of the curriculum, so that we are having good judgment when we judge the items based on the standard that we apply afterward. Okay, so then after we have very clear purpose as well as we already defined and the scope of our blueprint depending on what scope. So now time for us to tabulate curriculum. Let's say using example of GMT 104. This is the real course that available in PPSP. Just GMT 104, microbiology, immunology, and pathology course. So this is a preclinical. Remember, this is a preclinical. So basically, the phase and the purpose is for the semester exam, as well as for that will contribute to the professional exam later, maybe in the final year. Okay, and then we just tabulate everything. We just crop and extract from our BPK. For the USM, usually we use Bora Penawaran Kursus. BPK, we just extract and we classify according to the subheading. So for example, under microbiology, immunology, pathology, we have three main components. We have microbiology input, we have immunology input, and we have pathology input. And these are the topics that were approved based on the BPK. So basically, we just need to list down and tabulate curriculum content. This is the second step after we are clear with the purpose just now. And then we are now looking at impact and frequency, because the third step is we need to identify what do we mean by impact and frequency for the preclinical course. Now let's explore what do we mean by impact? What do we mean by frequency? And at the end of the day, we need to multiply the impact and the frequency and become IF. And the IF value will be very important to classify the topic into must know, should know, and nice to know category. So I will demonstrate afterward. But before that, let's define what do we mean by impact. So when we talk about impact, in terms of definition, is about the effects or influence of subjects or topics on the expected responsibility or competency of graduates with reference to educational standards. So basically, if you have professional bodies, so the professional body usually have certain standard for the medical program. If you are engineering, there are certain standard as well for the engineering. What the expected competency of engineers once they graduated from the course. If you are non-professional, maybe MQF 2.0 is a good reference to refer, or maybe even for certain things that within the school you have a certain education standard as well to define the impact. Okay, so impact. I will show an example afterward. And frequency is the rate of subjects or topics being applied and used in a specific field or context with reference to educational standards. So this is basically how frequent the topic is being used in practice. So basically, how frequent the topic is being used in real practice. So how relevant it is, how important, how in terms of the applicability of the topic in the real context. So it is about frequency. So based on these two definitions, let me show you examples of what we did in our medical school. So basically, as I mentioned just now, we have a preclinical courses, okay, and then we have a clinical courses, okay, the preclinical courses and clinical courses. So how we define impact and frequency in terms of the preclinical courses, because it will contribute to the clinical phase later on. So basically the standard, as I mentioned, competent novice medical practitioner. Basically, we are tapping at house officer level. It means that the junior doctors, competent, novice, junior doctors. Okay, so there is a standard, the education standard, but we are moving from the preclinical to clinical. So in the medical school, in our medical school, basically how we define impact for the preclinical courses. So this is the definition that we use to develop our blueprint. So the impact, so we divide it in 1, 2, 3. So 1, it means that less important for the phase 2 clinical phase. 2 is important for phase 2 clinical phase, and 3 is very important for phase 2, which is the clinical phase. So this is the impact that we define as a team in PPSP, and the definition is basically derived from expert discussion. So this is the agreed definition for impact in our context. But in your context, you can always define based on your own setting. And in terms of frequency, so we are using 1, 2, 3 as well. So rarely applied in phase 2, which is clinical phase, commonly applied in phase 2, and then frequently applied in phase 2. So basically, based on these two impact and frequency definition, each of the topic that we have tabulated just now, will be judged by the experts in the field. If let's say there is something related to microbiology, pathology, immunology, definitely pathologists must be there, immunologists will be there, and microbiologists will be there, sitting together and decide the impact and frequency based on this definition. Okay, so this is how we do it. And then for the clinical course, how we define the impact, we define differently because the reference point is a bit different from the preclinical courses. So how do we define? This is the definition that we are using when we develop our blueprint in PPSP in the medical school here. Is the impact, how we define, is less important for house officers. See, and then 2 is important for house officers. 3 is very important for house officers. It means that the knowledge is very, very important. Or for the house officer practice later on, it will give 3 rating. And frequently, rarely applied in clinical practice. 2 is commonly applied in clinical practice. 3 is frequently applied in clinical practice. So you can see that the definition of the impact and frequency in our context is very much related to the phase of the studies and how the phase of studies will develop the competency of the student to the next level. So this is an example that we are doing. And based on the definition as well, we have come up with all blueprints for all courses in medical school. So basically, we have complete set of blueprint from year 1 until year 5. So, and everybody are very clear what are expected, what are the must know, what are should know, and what is nice to know area in that particular course, because we already defined the impact and frequency. So now let's move on. Okay, now based on that, now we can say that if let's say for the preclinical courses, this is a standard. This is a preclinical courses impact and frequency, and this for clinical courses impact and frequency. And for this example, let's look at these examples. Let's look at the example. You can see that, because a preclinical course, so we are using the preclinical courses definition. Where is my pointer? I think this one. Okay. So impacts. If let's say there's a clinical courses, we are using the impact and frequency for the clinical courses. So okay, so now based on that, so every expert involved or maybe selected to give their rating. So based on that, for example, classification of medically important bacteria. And then the expert say the impact is a 3. It means that 3 is frequently applied in phase 2. Okay, frequency 3, very important for phase 2. So based on the expert judgment, this topic is very important and frequently applied. So it gives 9 IF because I multiply by F, 3 times 3 is about 9. And if you're compared to this one, for example, number 4, microbiogenetic and principle of antimicrobial resistance. The experts say yeah, it's important and commonly applied, but not that frequent as the previous topic. And we are looking at this one, T and B cell development. Their impact is say that less important, but commonly applied. So 1 times 2. So basically is the IF values for each of the topic that will be taught to the students. So basically, we know that which one is higher values as compared to the lower values, and the important is there. And all this based on the expert judgment, nobody else. Yeah? I saw a question just now regarding impact and frequency. How do we obtain the reference standard for this IP impact IF is made different from essential? Okay, that one is you have to define on your own. You have to define, and you need to understand the whole nature of the curriculum and the whole practice in terms of the educational standard. But let's say if let's say you are from engineering, I think you may refer to the standards that is available for any engineering courses. But for the medical, you can always refer to the undergraduate medical education standard. So basically, you need to understand that, and don't forget to put our own mission and vision into our flavor. So because that OBE, it's not only looking standard is one, but the whole flavor of our institution must be incorporated into our curriculum as well, so that the flavor will be better. Taking good things from both sides, from the standards as well as from our own vision, mission, and even our goals, educational goals in our own institution. So that is the reference point you can look for when you are trying to set the impact and frequency. Okay, so far, everyone follow me? Am I too fast? What? Anything that you like to clarify at this junction before we proceed to the step 4? Okay, so good. I hope I make it as simple as possible. Okay, in terms of how we define the impact frequency in your own setting. Okay, now let's go to the next phase. So basically, the phase is once we have prepared all the necessary things, now we are going into the intra-blueprinting, meaning that we are now looking at the whole thing. Okay, so categorize curriculum content, decide percentage, and decide number of items. Because we already decided the impact and frequency, based on the expert judgment. Now we have all this data with us. And how are you going to use this? Okay, now, how do we categorize and decide a percentage of question for each category? So as I mentioned just now, if you notice here, what we practice here and what is recommended is if any of values of IF within 6 to 9, so basically IF with values of 6 or 9, so this category must know. Okay, this is a must know area. It means that if the content is must know content, if the skill is must perform skill, if the values must have values. So something like that, 6 to 9. And anything that 3 to 4 is should know area. So basically, for example, here 4, classification and development of medically important fungi. So basically, this 4 means that the experts think and decided that there is should know area. Okay, and for example, T and B cell is only one topic here, 2. So 1 to 2 is nice to know area for the undergraduate medical students. But if you move to the postgraduate, maybe the same topic will be different. Maybe you should know because that is the level is different already. But for the undergraduate, okay, this topic is considered by the expert as nice to know area. So this is how we categorize all our topics. Each topic have their values. So it is very the beauty of doing this blueprint is we know exactly based on the expert judgment what the impact and frequency, how important is the topic, and how frequent the topic will be applied in reality. So it is very important. So we know that must know, should know, nice to know, and the percentage, decide on percentage of question for each category. Before we start to develop our questions, we as a team at the level of usually as course coordinator, okay, wait next question just now. How much agreement happen when experts are deciding on the impact and frequency, objective versus chapter? How often do we review the blueprint? Okay, so based on our experience, there are a lot of argument, and usually the course coordinator will be the moderator. And at the end of the day, they need to come and to reach the decision on the topic as a team. Okay, how much argument happen? Usually it takes about half day. Sometimes they continue with certain things that they are still not able to reach the consensus. They will put another meeting. Maybe for the first round meeting, everything that is clear enough, the topic is no argument, so they put aside this clear item. But something that need further argument, okay, usually they will put in another session. And usually after 2 to 3 sessions, they are able to come up with this kind of blueprint. So this is something that we observe in our experience. And objective and subjective, I think we are celebrating both sides. Objectivity means that you can refer to any medical textbook or any medical standard that is objective, but subjectivity is based on the real practice. Because, for example, let's say in Europe, there are certain diseases are less common compared to Malaysia. So the subjectivity depending the expert judgment based on the real practice in the current context, particularly in Malaysia. So that is something that we're trying to balance out. At the end of the day, the aim is everybody happy, and experts say this is the most acceptable impact frequency values for each of the topics. So that is for the argument happens and objective versus subjectivity. So at the end, once they have reached the consensus, we accept it as it is. Okay, as it is, as what I'm showing you here. How often do we review the blueprint? Usually as long as there is no major curriculum review in terms of the major changes in the content. So basically, you just need to just do updating. For example, just maybe content, maybe the teaching learning, maybe, in terms of the recent advancement in that topic. So that will be, but in terms of so far, as long as we don't change our curriculum, the blueprint will remain valid. So that is a beauty. Only one, usually once in every curriculum review cycle. So it depends. If let's say the curriculum review cycle is about 5 years, it means that the blueprint must be revised every 5 years as well. If let's say 10 years, so it means that the blueprint can be revised in the 10 years at least once. So because the blueprint very much related to the context, very much related to the content and the structure of the curriculum. Okay, so there is something, and then I will show you afterward how do we package all this assessment to come up with packages for the futures. When you have all this clear, you can package A, package B, package C, package D, package E, whatever the course oriented, and everything are clear from beginning. So I think we have less headache in terms of deciding what to put in our exam and what not to put in our exam, because there is no superiority right now. It's basically based on the expert consensus on the importance of these items in the curriculum. So now this is how we categorize and how we decide on percentage. So the decision on the percentage of question for each category in PPSP practice, this has been endorsed by even our school board. So must know area if let's say you have 30 items, for example, let's say you have 30 items of questions. Let's say I give you MCQ, multiple choice question. Let's say the allocated question for this course may be 30 MCQs. So what we decide is minimum 60% of the assessment must come from must-know area. That is our consensus. At least 60% of the assessment must come from the must-know area. And then should know maximum of 30% must come from should know. Nice to know maximum 10% only. Meaning that there is least priority, the 10% or maximum 10%. If you want to put in your exam, it's about 10%. So if you have 30 questions, maximum is 3 questions from the nice to know area. So this is how we decide percentage based on the consensus and approved at the board level. So basically this is our practice now. And usually we're trying to maintain 60% from must know area, 30% from should know area, and 10% nice to know. But if the course do not have nice to know, so you can put this 10% to must know area. And we always encourage our lecturers to focus on must know area if they have very limited number of questions. So this is something that we practice right now, and we're quite happy, and students quite happy as well, because they know that the core knowledge will be tested, and then it is very important for future practice as well, because the core knowledge is the one that will be utilized at most in the real practice. So this is something that we want in our test, which is very authentic, very reality based. It's not only theoretical based, and hopefully when we assess something that is a core for the future practice, that will bring about the competency of students that relevant to the future practice and the real practice, particularly in workplace. Okay, so if I have time, I can show you how the assessment and so on and so forth. But that is something different. Assessment is quite is quite in terms of security wise lah. Because confidential. If I have, I will show you. But most I don't keep lah because undergraduate. Maybe I can use mine later on as an example. Okay. So let's move on. Okay. Decide the 6 steps when we already have, for example, here we already have what are the content from must know area, what are the percentage that we will we will sample from the must know area, should know area, nice to know area, and now it's time to decide on the number of items for each assessment task. Okay, so this is something that MTF, SEQ, or SKD is our practice basically. It's a professional one and supplementary professional one. But for your information, I think starting from last batch, we already don't have professional one. This one is from the previous curriculum structure. Okay, so when we talk about MTF, it's linked to the C1 and C2. When we talk about SEQ, it's linked with C3 and C4. And then if we talk about OSCE, it's about P3, P4, and A3. So basically, it is the taxonomy level. And how do we map? For example, this one, I think MCQ. How many questions this one? They need what is the question? 14. Let's say they need 20 questions. Yeah, they need 20 questions. So the expert will see that 60%, remember 60% of 20, okay, should come from, for example, multiple true false. Maximum will be 14. So at least 60%. 60% times 14, about 8 questions. Maybe 8 questions should come from must know area. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, they take more from the must know area because minimum is 60%. So 9 over 14 is more than 6%. Okay lah. So that's quite happy. Quite happy. And then should know maximum 30%. Okay, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically 4 out of 14. So less than 30%. So basically we are quite happy with this assessment arrangement because we emphasize on the most important and most applied knowledge in the assessment. How about nice to know? No, they decided not to ask any nice to know. See, that's okay because that maximum is 10%. If they want to ask nice to know, that's okay. Maybe they ask should know knowledge. Would be better compared to the nice to know. So this is how we decide. When we're looking at the blueprint, we are very clear with the IF. We know exactly what the purpose of each of the assessment, and then we map accordingly. If let's say you have less number, so we always focus on the must know and should know. But if you have a lot of assessment item, you can go for nice to know, but not more than 10% in our practice. But in your practice, it's up to you to define on your own, as long as it is consensus of everybody that related to the course. Okay. So there is examples, and this just to revise something that when talk about cognitive C1, C6, and then psychomotor is about P7 to P1, P1 to P7, A5 to A1, A1 to A5. So it is basically very much related to what I showed just now, in terms of how we map the assessment with the learning taxonomy. And okay, the last step, one we have clear with that, if you notice that now we assign people to develop the items, not in the other way. Usually in normal practice, we develop the item and we try to push the item to the blueprint, and not even blueprint. Try to push the item without knowing why we need to develop this item. But for the blueprint, we decide first, we plan first, then we assign, that particular task of developing item to the lecturers involved. Okay, for example here. So once we discuss at the coordinators as well as the expert level, now we say that okay, these questions, okay, we will ask C to develop based on this taxonomy, which one is C1, C2. And now we will send out a letter to respective lecturer, require them or maybe request them to develop, okay, we need this topic at this level, C1, C2. So please, develop one MTF, multiple true false, out of this spec. So basically, we are developing based on the blueprint, not otherwise. Not otherwise. Okay, show you again the impact. Let me show again definition impact. Not this one. This one. So the impact, usually the effects or influence of the subject or topic on the expected responsibility and or competency of graduates with reference to education standards. So basically the impact, important, not important in the real practice. The rate of subject, so being used, applied in real practice as well. So this is frequency. Okay. No, it's not only for summative. You can always use for formative as well. You can use for formative, you can use for the coursework, you can use for final examination, anyhow that you want to use, because you already have the classification. Okay, you already have the classification, so it's very easy for you to maneuver according to the needs of your assessment. If you go for formative, maybe you can see which one is not being asked. For example, TNB cell, or maybe it's good for us to go for quiz because nice to know. So I'm not going to put in the final examination, but I want to cover somewhere. So maybe I can use quiz as a part of assessment for learning. Because we haven't asked in any exam any question, so why not we put a quiz? So that is is part of the formative assessment, just to have them to assess how well they are in this topic. You can use formative Kahoot, maybe quizzes, maybe, whatever lah. There are a lot of things right now. So that is how you can maneuver when you have all these blueprint. Okay, now let's go to the last part, assigned question. Now, usually we have specific, I will show the real example afterward. The real Excel, but this one is for clinical, no, preclinical. I will show you the example from the clinical. Let me show. So you can have different, already put this one. This is an example, the real example from one of the courses in the clinical family medicine courses. So you can see that. You can see the name, who's involved, who is going to develop, okay, and you can see the impact frequency. And in this essay, we have this subdivided. This one is must know, MK is must know, this one is should know, and this one nice to know. See, they map accordingly. They map accordingly. So we know that this topic is a must know topic by students, by hook or by crook, because it's super important according to the expert judgment. And this one is a topic under should know, and this one is topic under nice to know. So basically, when we brief to the students about the importance and the applicability of each of the content, it's very easy for coordinator to tell to the student which one is very important, which one is, yeah, this should know, but this one okay lah, this nice to know for you, for you. It's not so important for your houseman, but basically for your postgraduate later on, maybe you might see this more frequent. LP. Oh, LP is lecture and practical. The LP is basically practical, PBL. This one is a teaching. Sorry. And this one, LP is a lecture. This one is problem-based learning, and this one is practical. PBL, and this one is guided self-learning. So basically, it's a mode of learning. Because sometimes we need to know as well mode of learning. So fair enough, C1, C2 through lecture, okay lah, no problem. MP is not about the lecture, so basically we go for practical usually. P, practical. So most probably in the OSCE. So this is practical. Okay. So this is an example that how, and every courses in PPSP have this kind of blueprint from year 1 until year 5. Usually it is very convenient to everyone. And you can see that we already have package, SEM 1, SEM 2, backup 1, backup 2, and with the same quality. So basically, the lecturers are now very clear what to assess, very clear which one is more important than others, very clear what to emphasize during class, very clear what to do with our students when we are training them to become a competent doctor. Because everything is being consensus of many experts. Many experts. Okay. So this is a 7-step for blueprinting. At this moment, any question? Otherwise, we can have a break. But 10, 15. How much time that you need for a break? 15 minutes enough? Is that okay? Okay, good. So we break for 15 minutes. 15 minutes maybe you all nak makan apa semua kan? Never mind. Let's go for 30 minutes lah. Maybe some of you just need a longer break. Okay, let's break 30 minutes. At 10:30 we continue. 10:30 we continue with the practical session. Okay, the practical session. Okay, so we continue at 10:30. Okay, we take a rest for a while. Okay, see you later at 10:30. Okay, welcome back everyone. Okay, so before we start, maybe I like to respond to a few questions, quite interesting. It's from okay, so one of the questions: should student know about the must know, should know, nice to know? Will this lead to gaming or strategic approach for assessment? If they don't know what is important, they might wrongly cover exam. Okay, now let me share about our experience when we start doing blueprint. The blueprint will inform us about what to put in our guidebook to the students. So usually we list in the guidebook what is important, which we put is under must know area, or maybe must perform skill. So there is something related to skill, we put must perform skill. So when that's under category must know, so we always emphasize to student, they must make sure they learn that very, very well. So we are not talking about assessment, but we are talking about the guidebook to the students. Okay, and similarly, for we use that as our strategy to decide which procedure that we will allow or we will ask the student to perform, which procedure that we only require student to assist, and which procedure we only allow student to observe. So basically under must do procedure, so the student must do. Okay, so basically the student must do. They need to put in the logbook, and then they must put evidence that they already done it properly under supervision of any lecturers or any medical officer. They must have the chalk, so in the logbook. But any procedure that's under should know, we only require them to assist. They are not required to do it on their own, but only to assist. And those who are the nice to know, they only need to observe. So this is our experience, how we use those with blueprints to inform our teaching and learning strategies and what to put in our guidebooks as well as a logbook if they're related to the procedural skills. So this is how we use those blueprint. And in fact, from what we observe, when we put it clearly, the must know area, should know area, and nice to know, or in the scale, must do, must assist, and must observe. So that's really help students to learn better, and that will reduce the unnecessary, student workload, because they can strategize on how to ensure they fulfill all the requirement, even though they do not know all this blueprint behind the scene. Okay, behind the scene. And if you're looking at the Western, how they practice, they even give the blueprint to the student in terms of not which question to be asked from, but the whole set of the proof, which one is important, which one is not important. Their students have that access. Why they do that? They believe that the assessment is not to trick student. So the assessment is not to trick student. The assessment is to optimize the student capabilities by knowing what they are expected from the whole curriculum. If they fail, it means that they deserve to fail. If they pass, they deserve to pass. So this is something that quite interesting mindset when we're looking at the Western, particularly in UK and US, how they use this blueprint. And that's really helpful. And from our own experience, the students are are less confused what to cover and what not to cover, because everything has been spelled out clearly, what is must, what is should, and what is nice. So I think if I put myself in the student's shoes, I think I would prefer that kind of curriculum, not telling me what to know what sort of question in the exam, but what sort of learning that I need to take in order for me to be competent doctors. So there is, it's not about strategic game. You must have all those, but in different situation and different importance and priority. And that's reflect in the practice as well when they are practicing. And we got a very good feedback from our alumni because we already have 2 batches of alumni from this new curriculum that using the blueprint and the whole system of CGPA for the medical school, for medical program. They are telling us they are quite happy because, for example, let's say when they become houseman, they take less time to adapt and to tech for them to become a competent as compared to those who are from other university who take longer time to adapt and as well as to mastery certain competency. So there is a feedback that we got from our alumni from the 2 batches. So that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting, you know, the feedback that we got from our alumni from these batches while who when going through the curriculum that is properly blueprint through the system. So I think this is my response to the question. And the other one, it is going to be helpful if you also map the taxonomy label in the same Excel file to guide lecturer on preparing the question, practical tasks, just my thought. Okay, I think in terms of how you want to put the competency is up to you. Because that is your flexibility. You can put competency, you can put assessment, you can put teaching learning, whatsoever. But the main aim is about to ensure the alignment between what the must think, what is the should think, and what is a nice thing. And whatever the axis you want to put, you can put the taxonomy. Yes, there is practice about that. And then if you're looking at the example, they are using competency. It's not about the taxonomy, it's about competency as professionals. For example, clinical diagnosis, investigation, history taking, proper follow-up with patient, and many more. So that is how they put the axis. So the axis is very flexible for the course developer or maybe the course owner to decide on what to pair with the whole blueprint, impact, frequency, and IF values. The rest is up to you, as you think it fit in your practice. So that is quite flexible in that sense. Okay. For blueprint as almost all medical practitioners, so they will decide based on experience. The many of them become lecturer without fully practicing or short or practicer. We can complement this through industry advisor. Yes, much better is practice and have real experience, even though we academic. So do more concern and real problem solving, just my thought. Yes, definitely. I think if you're looking at those who are not in the practice, usually they will invite practitioner to be part of the blueprinting team. That is quite common practice as well, because they include outside people who are in the real practice and combine with the academic practice. So all this hybrid approach, combining those with experience and those with with academic background in deciding the importance in terms of the impact and frequency will be something really good. Yeah, I think that can be done. That can be done, definitely. Okay, so let's any more questions before we start? I think yeah, I hope I give a fair response to you, and now it's time for you to practice. Okay, let's do some practical thing. Okay. Okay, so we stop at here just now. Okay, for further information, basically, we have written the 7 steps to construct assessment blueprint based on our experience, and then it is freely available as educational resource in this journal. So this is our team involved with the the blueprinting efforts in PPSP. So you might want to download to know more about the theoretical part and then the real examples from this paper. Okay, now assessment blueprinting in action. So I already provide something. Let me copy paste this link first to the chat. I hope you can download the document that I already prepared for practice. Okay, documents for group practice. Okay, can be downloaded, access from this link. Okay, I already put on the chat box. Please download. Okay, if you click on that, so basically you will go to this folder. Okay, you will have two files. Okay, for practice. So one is Excel, and one is the syllabus. Okay, the syllabus that I already extract from the real BPK. Then for the group work, okay. So this is basically the template. So this is basically template. Okay, wait. And this is the syllabus, the real syllabus. This is my course basically. So that's why I can share with everyone. Okay, this is the syllabus. Okay, one of the course in statistics and research methodology. Why I choose this one? I think everyone can at least have done research, at least have done some statistical analysis before, so you have the experience, even though maybe you are not considered as very expert, but at least you have some experience, some knowledge that they can depend on when you want to decide the impact and frequency. So this is the first page. Okay, you will. I think we skip the first two steps because the first step is about to define what the scope and the focus. So the scope is basically for someone to become competent educational researchers. Okay, so basically this is the first year postgraduate students. Okay, who are learning in this course to become a competent educational researcher, and this is for the semester exam. Okay, and then how do I? This is only my proposal in terms of the impact and frequency. Okay, frequency. Okay, the impact. It means that one is less important for becoming competent educational researchers. Two, important for becoming competent educational researchers. Three, very important for becoming competent educational researchers. Even though you are not the educational researchers, but this is just for practice and learning purpose. So assume you are the expert. Okay, assume. Please pretend to be like expert. Okay, frequency rarely applied in educational research, commonly applied in educational research, and frequently applied in educational research. So this is basically the first page, and the rest of the page will be automatically captured from here. So whatever you put here, for example, let's say you put here and then okay, and then it will automatically capture for the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. Okay, there is already auto calculate. So let me put back as 0. Okay, now your task is to decide on the impact and frequency. So basically, I already tabulated the syllabus for you. Okay, that can be done basically by even our admin, from our admin staff whatsoever. So the expert come only into when it's involved deciding the impact and frequency. So we can make a shortcut there. So it's less cumbersome to our experts. So they come in and now you are the expert. Okay, now just pretend you are the expert who is going through this topic, the 13 topics in this course. Statistics and research methodology is about 2 units. It is only 2 units, and the code is GPT 507/2. That this UC courses, and then based on this, I hope in the group, please rate according your consensus. It means that you discuss, you argue, whatever you want to do, as long as at the end you come to a consensus what will be the impact for this topic and what will be the frequency of the topic, and later on based on one of the example, we will go through the whole process of mapping from this blueprint to C1 and C6, P1, P7, and A1 to A5 on how we can go about it after you have come up with the blueprint. Okay, am I making you clear enough or you are confused at this junction before I start to break you into several groups? How do you rationalize between importance and being common? They are often positively correlated. Important and common, or I think importance and being common.
Frequently itu kan common. So usually if it is important, it is what is frequently used. So how do you rationalize between the two? Selalunya is positively correlated.
Yeah, definitely. Commonly is something that average lah, but selalu jumpa lah. Kalau frequently is sangat kerap, something like that.
No, I mean between impact and frequency. Your rubrics for impact is whether it is important, less important, or very important, kan, for competent educational researchers. Frequency is also sort of same lah. Rarely applied, commonly applied. So how do you rationalize between importance and frequency?
Okay, this one is the effects of the effects of the topic on becoming competent education research, but this one is more toward the practice, the use of this topic in educational research setting. So basically, it's about the utility, the usability of the topic, but this one is important for them to become competent education researcher. A bit different. Is it look similar? I'm not really sure. To me, I think important mean that what will it how that topic influence someone to become competent education researcher. So this is about important here. Frequency is how frequent this topic is being used in practice when we do educational research. Am I making clear, or am I making you more confused at all? Okay, we try. Okay, let's say, but you are always can redefine this. No problem. This is not something standard, but if you think that you need to redefine to make it clearer, so that the discussion will be better and the consensus reach also at the better quality, I think you are most welcome to do that. This is only proposal so that we can start learning through our own experience in the group. Okay, just to facilitate discussion. Okay, so any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to break you into how many participants? Wait, let me check how many participants. Let me check how many participants. 41. 41 participants. 41 participants. But exclude Wani, Zana, exclude CDA, exclude for almost 37. 37. So I'm going to divide you into, I think, 6 groups. For each of the group, will be having 6 members, okay, more or less. Saya host ke Zana? Saya host ni kan? Okay. Saya tak boleh tekan ni. Okay, good. I will randomly assign you into group. So just redor whatever group member you have. 6 group. 6 group, yeah, okay. Automatically. Okay, I hope that you already downloaded at least copy paste the folder, the link to folder, and download to your computer. And then you'll be given about 30 minutes only just to have a feel, just to have a feel only 30 minutes. Wish you all the best. Usually 30 minutes is not enough to argue whatsoever. Okay, but at least you go through the process to gain some experience how to decide on the impact and frequency in the area that maybe not your area, but at least you have some experience related to the area. Okay. Okay, let me check. Is there any clarification before I start the group breakout? Pat PM can give a simple analogy example to enlighten difference between the break impact and frequency. Okay. Okay, so let's say the importance to become competent. Okay, when impact, how that topic will influence the competency of a researcher in education, educational researcher. So it's about how the topic will influence the capability of future educational researcher. Okay, that is impact. Okay, if frequency, okay, how frequently is the topic being used by education researcher in education setting? So the use of the topic, in reality. So that is about frequency. Sometimes it's important. For example, it's very important, but in terms of, because it's too specialized, in terms of the usability of that topic, it might be less common because it's very specialized method, but it's very important. Got it? For education researcher to know, to become a more competent researcher. It's very important. For example, qualitative. For example, qualitative method for education researcher is very, very important. But under that topic, for example, let's say we go for grounded theory. For example, one of the grounded theory is very important. Definitely, if a competent researcher must know that. Competent qualitative researcher. But in terms of the usability, how frequent is applied is basically number two usually is commonly applied, but not that frequent, depending on the context, depending on the research objective, depending on the research purpose. For what? For that particular topic to be used. So that is one of example that I can give you on how to differentiate between the impact and frequency. I don't know whether I'm making you more confused or making more and more enlightened about that the difference between impact and frequency. I think why not you just go through first and let's discuss after you come back. Maybe you have better analogy to share so that other people can understand better as compared to what I'm explaining to you. Is that okay? We start the group work first, then we discuss later. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So let's have some experience about impact and frequency based on the topic. So if everyone ready, so I'm going to break you into 6 groups right now, and I give you about now is almost 11. So 11:30, I will stop the discussion. Okay, 11:30, I will stop discussion, and everyone will come back, and maybe I will randomly request a representative from each group to help me to come up with the IF values for our discussion later. Okay, is that okay? So yeah, I'm already rating. What happened? Okay, so ready everyone? Okay, so you may join your group now. Yang dekat luar ni jumpa bilik ke? Jumpa bilik ni. Yang dekat luar ni macam mana? Tak jumpa bilik ke? Ada masalah nak masuk? Okay, mana-mana yang ada kat sini boleh join kumpulan. And you can join your group. Okay, good. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a very good and fruitful session. Now I need every group representative to help me to fill in the blank. Wait, where's my? Okay, I need kami tidak berapa faham. Okay, never mind. That's okay. It's a learning process anyway. From confusion to clarification afterward. So now, because we have about 13 topics, so we have 6 groups. So the first group will give the impact and frequency rating for the first 3 topics, and the next group will take turn on your 2 topics. So it means that the first group will cover topic 1 until 3. Group 2 cover 4 and 5. 6, 7 will be covered by third group, fourth group 8, 9, fifth group 10, 11, and the last group 12, 13. So I think we take turn for you to share whatever you have discussed and consented at your group level. So may I call group representative from group number 1 to share your impact and frequency values? Yeah, please, anyone from group 1?
Hello, I'm Chia from Group 1.
Yes.
Okay, so this one I will read
Yeah, the value.
okay, the values. So for topic number 1, impact is 2,
2,
frequency is 1.
1, okay. How about
Then topic number 2, impact is 3, frequency 3.
okay, 3.
Then topic number 3, critical appraisal, impact 3, frequency 3.
Okay. Thank you, group number 1.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Any feedback from other groups related to topic number 1 until number 3? Do you have any discrepancy with your group consensus? Anyone from other groups?
Therefore, I think we are group 3. I'm not sure. We feel topic 1 is important because everybody must understand the entire thing so that they
Okay.
can decide on the details later. So we give 3 and 3 for topic 1. Thank you.
So a group 3, okay, group 3, you put 3 and 3, isn't it?
Yes, the rest
Okay.
are the same.
Rest the same. Okay. So any other group that no, your consensus a bit different from the first group? Anyone? Okay, so I put a note here. Yes, group number 1, do you like to respond? Group number 1?
Okay, we put it at for topic number 1, impact 2 and frequency 1, because it is just an introduction. So in terms of impact, yes, it's probably good to know, and frequency is 1 because, well, since it's an intro topic, it's unlikely to be used in a in a very often kind of manner compared to the other topics which we felt that will actually happen more often compared to topic number 1. Yeah, that's just how we came about.
Okay, okay. Okay, so okay. Would you like to change your, or maybe you want to remain and stick to your decision? After listening to the other group opinion just now, would you like to remain the same or you like to modify it a little bit?
Because going by the Word document, the syllabus itself, that particular topic covers basic material which might be useful to know, but might not be necessarily applied all the time. So that's how maybe we can also justify lah.
Okay, okay. Okay, because it's rarely applied. How about the steps in developing research? I think that will be used, isn't it? At least common. What do you think?
That's why actually we also noticed that the few of us in the group, we also came from different different disciplines, different, you know, different schools. So we also had to just, you know, just decide on a number. I think it'll be easier if, for example, those who are co-teaching are from the same area, which will naturally be so. I think it'll be easier to decide if you are, you know, in the same discipline.
But no, because no, everyone pretend to be expert.
Yeah, that's the problem. But it was an interesting experience, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good. But I think we should put two lah because it's quite common related to steps, you know. It's common at least lah. Can I put two?
Yeah, sure. No issues, no problem.
Okay. That is how we discuss lah basically. Yeah. If you have any, we can go ahead and then ask the third opinion maybe. Okay, never mind. The rest same. And in fact, depending on your area as well, sometimes people look at this as 3 times 3. But 2 times 2 is quite fair, you know, for this topic. Okay, that's okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, any other comment from other groups before we proceed to the second group to give the values of impact and frequency for the next two topics?
Saiful, just to share our experience in group 3 lah. I think we always start our discussion by looking at our own area. But I thought we were supposed to be educational researchers. So if we had discussed it based on our own individual area, I don't think we can get a consensus lah. Tapi because you asked us to become educational researcher, we that help us in trying to find a commonality. So maybe not everybody realized that just now. So itu je my comment. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So everybody happy 2 times 2? I think that should be okay lah. Should be okay. Okay, thank you for sharing of your thoughts. That's interesting. Let's see what will be provided by group number 2. Yes, representative from group number 2 for the topic number 4 and 5.
Assalamualaikum. I'm Anis from group 2. Okay, for number 4, introduction to statistics, impact 3, frequency 3, IF 9.
Okay.
DS descriptive statistic 339. Everything is important for us. It's basic. The fundamental. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, group 2 representative. Yes, any comment from the other group?
Agree, sama.
Sama. Sama. Okay. It seems that other people also have the same feelings. Okay, that's good. It's easy to reach consensus at this junction. Okay, yeah. If no more comments, let's go to topic number 6 and 7, group 3.
Okay, I was forced. I facilitated discussions. I was forced to say, study design we feel is very important because without study design you will not be able to do research. So we have three for impact and 3 for frequency. We discuss sampling and sample size determination together. We feel it's complementary. And when we look at the syllabus, we feel the sample size determination has more important elements to it. So therefore, sampling, we have pulled it down to 2 for impact and 1 for frequency. With that discussion of having another chapter or another lecture that covers more or less the same topic. So study design 3, sampling 2, 1.
Yes, thank you so much, group number 3 representative. Any comment from other groups? Yes, any comment from the groups? Agreeable? Same, okay, same, okay. Okay. Wow, this very harmony discussion, easy to reach consensus. in reality, it's not as easy as this. Okay, thank you so much. Close enough. Okay, close enough. So I think that is very good. Really at the same level of expertise. Okay, thank you so much, group number 3. Let's go to group number 4. Yes, group number 4. Anyone? I hope you remember your number 4. Yes, group number 4 representative.
Actually, I'm not for. I'm not sure if I'm from group 4, but for content
We are number
9,
5 then.
we are 5 or 4.
If I was second, we are number 5.
Okay, so wait me next level.
Yeah, next one. Where is group number 4? Can I retrieve back who is, because already end of the breakout session. Can I just check who is number 4? Wait, let me see who is number 4. Number 4, group number 4. Wait. Group number 4. 2, 3, 4. Hazwani, Siti Madiana, Muhammad Tafir, Muhammad Bisrul, and Dr. Noli Zakaria. Yeah, this is group number 4. Any of you like to share your findings?
Is it for the numbers 7 and 8?
No, 8 and 9.
8, 9.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a consensus, which is the impact for the sampling and sample size determination and univariate analysis. We choose impact is 3 and 2. Frequency is 3 and 1. So for this sampling size determination is very important because we need to determine whatever parameter that we need before we proceed to the next step lah.
Number 9, univariate analysis.
Okay, for univariate analysis, since we already determined the sample size, so for the univariate analysis, it's become important, but not very important. Maybe my friends can just add my point.
Okay, got it. How about the frequency?
Frequency is 3 and 1.
3.
Yes.
So 2, 3. Okay. So this is your group consensus. Okay, that is good. Yes. I invite any other comment from other groups. If let's say discrepancy between your consensus with the group number 4 consensus. Same.
Actually, for sample size determination, our group felt it's more important. 3.
3.
Yeah, because that will have a lot of bearing on our methodology and therefore cost, and that will also decide on the reliability of our research later. That's our group punya view lah.
Okay, 3 for impact. Okay. The rest is the same.
Okay, for our group 2, the sample size determination was 3.
Okay.
It's really important,
Okay.
especially in our field. So, and we frequently use it.
Okay, and group 5 said 3 for impact for this one. Okay. Any other group that you like to to suggest in the same way? Okay, so group number 4, you like to change your mind about the impact or sample size determination?
Sorry, Prof. Actually, for the sample size determination, the impact is 3 and the frequency is 3. For univariate analysis, the impact is 2, the frequency is 2.
Okay, like that. Okay, I was wrongly heard. Okay. Now, I mean that we're on the same page with group 3 and 5. Okay. Univariate. Same with other group as well. This one done. This one no need because it's already resolved. Okay. How about univariate analysis? Any comments from other groups? Okay, I think silence mean agree, isn't it? Okay, let's go to group next group 5 for topic number 10 and 11. Group 5?
Okay, Shardine, I think you want to. Okay. For group 5, we are group 5, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for the 10, the reliability, actually, I'm talking about our field because we are in. Usually, we use it. We give it 2.
Okay.
It's important, but based on our research design, based on the instrument we use, so we give it 2, and for the commonly used 2, because it's commonly used in our field. For the factor analysis, it's 2.
Yes, okay. Yes, any comment from other groups? I think okay. No comment meaning everyone agree to same. Wow, you all having the same wave of length in terms of judging the impact and frequency. So very easy. Okay.
Well,
Good.
Saiful, we need your advice. We discussed this a lot in our group. The number 9, 10, 11 ni are basically different types of analysis that we do lah, kan?
Yes.
So I guess for a researcher to decide which kind of testing or analysis to do, they must understand the test. So we feel there is in terms of importance, it is important, but in terms of frequency, it is less. Because some study you don't use all testing. Is that the way how you argue in terms of impact and frequency?
Okay, basically, if let's say if impact, I'm looking at how this topic will, for example, impact will influence the competency of educational researchers. So basically, in my field, in education, usually univariate, reliability, and fact analysis is very important. That is from my perspective because it's very commonly used and frequently being used. And to be competent, you need that.
Yeah.
So this one. To be competent, you need to do that.
That's what we thought in group 3 because it affects reliability of your results.
Yeah.
So that's why we put 3 for impact, tapi we put 2 for frequency because we feel not every study requires all, perhaps. So to be different from the group 5, we actually put 3 for impact for number 9, 10, 11, and 2 for frequency for the same 3. And with that same argument as you gave lah.
Yes. Because definitely to be a competent researcher, univariate analysis is very important. I do agree. It should be 3. But in terms of use, 2 is okay because it's commonly applied. Not that frequent depending on your research objective, depending on the study design, and depending on the context that you are collecting your data. So that is something, common, not really frequently applied. I agree with that. But never mind, this is just exercise to make you better understand what it means by impact and frequency, and hopefully that understanding can be translated into your own setting when we decide about impact and frequency. Okay, so group 5, you would like to modify your impact for univariate analysis, or you?
Actually, for reliability and factor analysis, this our impact because you in the content using SPSS, so that's why it's not necessary for this. So that's why I go to 2 with my team because we can use different software. So that's why I go to 2. Otherwise, I'll go to 3 because it's not specific software. You can use anything. If it's the concept, then we go to the 3. But using SPSS, this is the point. Thank you.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think that's fair enough. Okay, let's keep it as it is. Okay, so let's agree on this. So based on our discussion, we are more inclined to maintain the decision. Okay, so that's okay. Okay, now the last but not least, group number 6.
Hello, Assalamualaikum, Dr. Saniful.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. For question number 12 and 13, for both we put 3 for impact and 2 for frequency for both items.
For both.
Yeah, 3, 2. Yeah, because we think that this one is important, but there might be some other ways to get results as well aside from giving questionnaires. So that's why.
For the education researcher, I think questionnaire is something very important to become competent, isn't it?
Yes, agree. Yes, agree.
But in terms of the commonality of use, depending on the
exact
design,
question,
So I think it's common, not very frequently applied, isn't it? It's very common. Okay, that's fair enough. Any other comments from other groups about topic number 12 and 13? Agree. Okay.
Regarding to the questionnaire development, is it very important or just important? Because usually we don't go to develop a questionnaire in our education field. Usually it's better to adopt any other questionnaire. So that's why we go to 2 for the impact.
I mean that for the questionnaire development, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's developed questionnaire. That means from scratch, right?
Yes.
So usually we don't go to this. So this is my concern. So that's why I give it 2 because it's really important to know how to structure or develop a questionnaire. But frequently use it, we rarely use it in our research. So that's why I go to 3 with my group search. We go to 3 and 1. No, 2 and 1.
2 and 1. Okay, that's your group. 2 and 1. Okay, let me put. But that is your contact, isn't it? But for the educational research?
Yeah, for educational research, we rarely develop a new questionnaire.
Group 5, 2 for impact.
But from your statement, you are commenting about the frequency, not about the importance. From your wording, you said that it is very important to understand about questionnaire development, even though we rarely use it, which means that the impact is important, even though even though in practice we don't really use it.
Yeah, right? Actually, to know that's I agree with you. It's very important. Yes, I agree. But are we use it frequently? No.
Yes, which is why for impact it is 3 because you use the word very important, and for frequency it is rarely used or not not frequently used. So hence it has to be either 1 or 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, but actually, I said important. But after a while, I said very important when I go very motivated. So it's important. So that's why I go to 2. But thank you for your whatever you mentioned now.
I think the argument is valid, but for the learning purpose, just maintain 3-2-3-2. Is that okay? because it's not the real one. It's just for practice. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
but
for
it's
practice.
nice practice because now we got the idea, fully idea. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully that will be something that you can transfer to your real practice on how you can use the impact and frequency. Okay. Now, okay. Oh, it's already 12. So just a little bit more. So how you use all this? For example, let's say this is something that we already consented at the group level, and for the blueprinting, group effort is very important rather than individual effort. So everybody must argue, everybody must agree, and sometimes agree to disagree. So there is a moment that we need to agree to disagree. Okay, so that is where we are trying our best to ensure that everybody have same 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 judgment on the impact and frequency, so that as a group we can work together when we teach this topic. So everybody know what the level of importance and frequency of those topic being used in real practice, so that everybody are happy, because the implication is in the assessment later on. Okay, now let's go to this blueprint. You know, if you realize that just beside IF we have weight. So basically the weight is an auto calculation based on the impact values. This one is the impact factor is for general, sorry, impact frequency. Okay, impact frequency for divided by the total. So for this one, this one divided by the total will lead to the weightage. The weightage is very important to ensure that the representation of the item in the test. So example here, for example, okay, let's say the number of item required, for example, is cognitive, and we are expecting to produce 50 multiple choice questions, MCQ. So you put 50 here, and then the system will auto calculate based on the weight. So basically the formula is like this: the weight, okay, and then multiply by the number of item required, you mean the MCQ 50, and you will get the number of item specifically should be developed from this area. Can you see that? So basically 25555152244 items. So that is roughly being estimated by the system based on the weight. However, this
Saiful,
yes.
can I interject? You give an example of a multiple choice question, kan? Tapi kalau kita give the items required as marks, is it possible?
Yes, you
100
can.
marks.
Yes, mark also can.
Can.
Can. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
alright. So
But
it can
that's
be
why
anything lah.
it can be. It's up to you how to define the item here. But in our practice, we usually item mean that the questions. So 50 questions, so we mean that 2 questions from here. If mark, yes, you can always put mark 100 marks, for example. So how many marks from each of this topic? But the question must be integrated question that cover the topics. For example, let's say research proposal. Let's say research proposal for the psychomotor. I mean that the marks may be 40. And then you can always modify. For example, let's say if you want to follow the weightage based on the impact frequency values over the total impact frequency values, that's okay. But you can always modify according to the need to map your research proposal with the topic. For example, let's say, the research proposal does not apply reliability and fact analysis. You can always modify here to make it 0. Then you just, for the sake of the system, you just make it 0. Okay. And then automatically 0. Okay. And this one will be 0. So it will auto calculate and the mark will be distributed accordingly based on the 30. This one you need to and this one. oh, this one is calculated from here. No wonder. Okay, we need to adjust here. Sorry. The system is, sorry. The adjustment should be in here. If let's say you want to, for example, not research proposal, for example, is not about reliability and questionnaire, you can just omit this one. You can just omit, make it 0. For example, you make it 0, and you can get the actual distribution from this topic. Okay, so this is going to be the full mark of 100. So you can see the distribution that is related to this topic. So that's the flexibility that you have when you have the blueprint at your hand. And similar to effective as well, depending on depending on your the needs of use. If let's say you have effective, for example, for us maybe let's say multiple mini Viva, for example. So we have about 4 stations. So for each station, what we want to cover, so we can decide on which level of, for example, here critical appraisal we want to cover, and then we can put a certain weightage here. For example, let's say we just delete about this critical appraisal from here. This is something that we want to cover. Okay, and then this one also. And then set design want to, yes, let's say these are the things. So it will come and then you know that exactly what will be covered in your station. So this is something that the maneuver you can use when you have the blueprint at your hand. And you can always put here mapping, for example, minimum 1, this one 1, this one 1, this one 1, and this one 1. So basically, at least at the A3 level, valuing the opinion, expressing opinion ethically when the candidates expressing their thoughts, opinions, or ideas about the topic that we are put in the multiple mini Viva throughout the 4 stations and 4 examiners. So this is the example on how you can use the blueprint, but in the real practice, it's really depending on your field. So different field have a different way of using the rubric, but the rubric will provide a common understanding about the importance, I mean that the impact and the frequency of each topic in your own setting. So the teamwork is very much appreciated in a blueprint as compared if you are the one who decided everything without any guidance based on the IF. Okay, so any questions so far? So I think we're almost done. How many? How many topics you cover must know topic? 60%. Okay, so basically, let's go to, okay, from this example, okay, let's go back. Okay, for example here, okay, so I put green as must know. Okay, it's must know. And I put kind of, this one will be blue. Is nice, should know. This one is, so basically, if you want to really put into the topic, 60%, 60% of your item, for example here, let's say 50, so 60% is about 30 questions. Okay, so 30 questions must come from this green area, the must know. Minimum 60%. So you mean that the 60% will come from this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 topics. Okay, and then the other 30% came from this topic. Maximum, that's the maximum. And 10% from this topic. So 10% out of 5 questions. But sometimes you can always adjust according to your need. Sometimes because minimum is 60%, but because this topic, there are a lot of topic under under category of must know, and you might want to include 70 to 80%. You want to cover, you want to cover must know, and the remaining about maybe 10% or 15% want to cover the should know topic, and the remaining for the nice to know topic. So that's your depending on your team consensus when you are mapping and deciding which item will come from which topic. Okay, is that clear? The most important is everyone are very clear about what is, what is very important and and frequently applied in the real practice. We can see clearly from here. And what need to be emphasized during the teaching learning, and when we are do briefing to the students, and when we are telling to the student what to study, what not to study, whatsoever. I think with this kind of blueprint, the lecturers also clear what to emphasize, the student also clear what to learn and what to emphasize when they are learning. So I think if no more questions, perhaps let me go back to my slide, because I would like to conclude. Yeah, before I conclude, anything that you like to specifically clarify based on your short experience just now, putting the impact, frequency, and how we can use those into different learning outcome taxonomy, cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. Yes, any more questions? Okay, I assume we already have the SLT for each topic. Do you change back after doing the blueprint? Just now we already have the SLT for each topic. Do you change back after doing the blueprint?
Maybe I can under your topic just now, your syllabus, you have already the type of teaching method and the hours, teaching hours.
Yeah.
So we were discussing in our group whether that should also be a sign of importance and frequency. We agreed that we should not look at that, because once we have determined the impact and the frequency, we may actually change the hours of coverage. Is that true? That's a true? Is that true way to do things?
Yeah, but basically the blueprint will inform us about where to improve in our syllabus.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Because let's say the topic is important, then the SLT should be, the student learning time should be more on the important thing rather than emphasize on something that is nice to know, isn't it? That's quite common sense. So one of the benefits when we do blueprint, basically it will help us to reflect back on our syllabus, and particularly related to the amount of time we allocate to each topic. So that is very good exercise to us as well. That inform us about we need to be fair with the student. More time should be put on the must know area as compared to should know and nice to know. If for example, let's say that's happening in our syllabus, it seems that we overemphasize on nice to know rather than must know. I think that's the time that we have a lot of information and evidence to say that now we need to change our practice. Let's focus more on more important things rather than focus on very nice to know things that might not be applied in the future. So I think that is my response, and definitely I agree with that. That opinion. Yeah, definitely. Okay. For the sake of time, it's already over 15 minutes. I would like to conclude my final note. Basically, if you if you see the whole thing is basically what we do is assessment fit purpose. That's why we need to know we need to have blueprint so that we can purposely fit our assessment to the best possible competency based on certain area of content or maybe area of skill. And then we have a standard guideline. We need just to perform based on the standard guidelines that will improve quality of assessment. Blueprint is something important to ensure validity of assessment as a whole. And then assessment principle must be there as much as possible, particularly involved with the expert's judgment. So the expert must be the one who are doing the judgment on the impact and frequency. That is very important. So with that, I would like to say thank you to everyone for your active participation. And if anything that you like to ask, you can ask now. Otherwise, we can stop. And if any feedback, you can always give to the organizer to the feedback form that will be provided later. So yeah, any burning questions that you would like to ask or to clarify at this junction? It would elevate, yeah, perhaps parts to Saiful. Okay, so yeah, curriculum blueprint, yes, that is another interesting topic as well. No, curriculum rubric definitely. So that's okay. That will be the part 2, inshallah, if we got time. So with that, I think thank you so much again to everyone for your active participation, for the sharing of your thoughts, and for sharing your experience, particularly when you are looking at things from different perspective. Maybe my perspective is very biased toward medical education, but your perspective added something more, to the whole story about assessment blueprinting. I hope that will be useful for you to to transfer to improve your current practice in your assessment. And hopefully, if you have anything to ask, you can always contact me through email and WhatsApp if you have my WhatsApp. Okay. Thank you so much. Ya, Wani. So, nak buat apa lagi Wani lepas ni?
Tak ada apa, peserta diminta untuk scan QR code untuk attendance. Okay, thank you so much Dr. Saif for today's webinar. Hopefully we can see you in the next webinar perhaps.
InsyaAllah. InsyaAllah.
Okay, thank you Doctor.
Okay, thank you everyone. See you again in the future. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Happy lunch.
If you have any problem to scan the QR code, you may use the link I share in the chat box.